We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale.
Welcome back to the Harbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. I'm here with my co-host, Scott Keith. Today, we're doing Sidney Lumet, or Sidney Lumet if you took a semester of French like I did and flunked it. Network, 1976. We did Dog Day Afternoon as part of the summer series. So if you watched that one, you're back. Welcome. This is one that I had seen before. Dog Day Afternoon, I had not. This is one that stuck with me for a few years. I was like, yeah, I think Scott would really like this movie,
Oh, I
hopefully.
would. And first of all, yeah, we were discussing beforehand how it's apparently Lumet, and we sounded like expats the whole time, being pretentious with Lumet. Um, no, so for those of you who don't know me, which is all of you, I have somewhat of a background in journalism, not so much in broadcast, but I've written for news websites before. And my parents were in the newspaper industry. So I'd actually kind of secondhand seen that whole industry shift over the years. Studied journalism in college, so I've been onto this. I was actually going to watch this a couple months ago, but I knew we had it coming up for this, and so I was like, all right, let me wait and like see it fresh, and then we can get Adrian seeing it twice, me seeing it fresh. Um, I'm already a Sidney Lumet fan, and yeah, this movie ruled. It's depressingly prescient for a movie almost 50 years old. Almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
A couple
Isn't that
years,
crazy?
which is insane. Because I don't know. I feel like we never really lost Robert Duvall. I feel like he's still with us somehow. Um,
Unfortunately, it's one of those movies, the longer it's been around, the less satirical it is.
yeah.
Because
Also, I made that joke. Apparently, Robert Duvall's still alive, but I haven't seen him in anything. He's 93. This movie, it's got a hell of a cast. Let's start there. I mean, this is one of the most monologuing, scenery chewing in a good way movies I've seen in a while.
yeah.
And I bet it was both exciting and irritating for a lot of the actors because I was listening to Lumet talk about her, like quotes from him and stuff, and they did a ton of rehearsals. Paddy Chayefsky, the writer, he was on set, which they normally don't do in movies. Normally in movies, the director's like, keep the writer, not always, but like keep the
Uh,
writer off
Old
set.
Hollywood, less so common maybe in the 70s, but Golden Age Hollywood, yes, definitely had writers on set.
Yeah, but they did here too. Nowadays, I don't think that's that common, is what I'm saying. Although nowadays you have like 6 writers for every movie that's come out, so it'd be kind of hard to there's not a clear vision. Which I think Chayefsky you know, the dialogue rides the line perfectly between naturalistic and stylized, which is something I'm kind of a stickler for. This movie made me think of The Social Network a lot. And I guess just because that's the last big movie about new media that was like really in the zeitgeist, unless I'm missing one, even though it was, a while ago. Um, I guess even though these are fictional characters, there's still so much of the backstabbing deals, the internal politics, how this new media is affecting a generation, the megalomaniacal aspects of everybody. And it made me think of Sorkin's dialogue, how stylized Sorkin's dialogue is. And this kind of can get into that same area, but it's just stylized a little less, and the performances are varied enough, and the voices are written in a varied enough manner where it is all in balance. And apparently, they had Chayefsky on set, tried to get everything word for word, and rehearsed the crap out of it, including with actors who weren't used to that because they're mostly screen actors, not stage actors.
Yeah.
But I mean, they really got everything like to the syllable, which you have to in this.
And I didn't realize until after watching it, that Chayefsky wrote Altered States, which is one I can't believe we haven't done on this cast yet. And it's
That's
so
whatever,
different
dude.
it's so different from Network. It's like
That's insane. I had no idea he wrote Altered States.
crazy.
That is absolutely insane. Well, he wrote. Apparently, he had a career in TV and had become disillusioned by the '70s of what it was becoming. Which I don't know. I wonder what. How old is Lumet? Lumet, because one of the interesting things about this is Faye Dunaway is the quote unquote young character.
Yeah.
In this movie, she's like 35. And she's considered like the first generation of people raised on TV, which is an insane thing to think about because now pretty much everybody who's alive was raised on TV, except unless you're like 90, you know. And even then. So I don't know. It's really interesting to have that. And now we're having
I did think about that. Like, if this was made today, it would be a Gen Xer saying, "You dumb millennials."
it's here's the thing. It's so hard to not make those comparisons,
Yeah.
silly as they are. Like, dude, as I was doing research for this, looking at different videos, it's election season. I would have political ads pop up, and like it was a 5-second ad of Trump just being like, Kamala wants to defund the police. Trump 2024. That's the entire ad. And I'm like, yeah, we've got there. We've gotten to really short, meaningless sound bites that mean nothing to enrage people and get their faux political activism.
I'm telling you now, no one reviews movies better than these guys from the harbor.
Guys, you heard it here. Donald Trump loves us. If it would get us more subscribers, I'd take a Trump dictatorship.
Okay, great. I'm glad. I'm glad we got that on tape.
Yeah,
Well, So, if you're listening to this, it's been a while. Maybe you haven't seen this movie. Hopefully, you have if you're watching the episode. But if you haven't, the movie is a satire about news, media, consumption of media,
and entertainment, and the need for news to be entertaining.
How the news cycle has changed and how it has evolved, and it's only gotten worse over the years. When the 24-hour news cycle hit, they realized, oh shit, we got to start filling in things.
Yeah. Oh no, there's not 24 hours of news. We have to do it with like cats losing weight at the YMCA or other news stories. They even call attention to this as like that even though programming takes over the news in this movie, which is like something obscene, and now it's like, yeah, now we have the Daily Show and Gutfeld and everything. The idea that news has always been entertainment because, like, I don't know how many people listen to C-SPAN. Have you ever watched C-SPAN?
Occasionally.
It's so dry compared to just normal news. It's just like people coming up and giving speeches like in between congressional hearings.
Yeah.
It's so insane. But like nobody wants to watch that crap.
And the whole thing is that this guy named Howard, who's been a news anchor for them for over a decade, makes a declaration on TV. He's fed up. His wife has died. He's not himself. He's kind of burnt out, and he says he's gonna kill himself a week from today on TV. And that aspect, all of Howard's stuff, that aspect of like dark humor came along. It came across better for me on the rewatch.
Oh no, there's definitely some dark humor. One is the I keep forgetting his name. I keep wanting to call him Louis Farrakhan, but that's the Nation of Islam guy. The guy who's the terrorist with the beaver hat, of the Ecumene Liberation Front or whatever it is, most generic sounding terrorist organization. There's that scene where you have these diehard communists allegedly arguing about syndication rights and points and numbers and all this stuff because they've been co-opted by the system. And then he shoots a gun and like plaster gets on a bald dude's head. It's the most over the top comic moment of the movie.
It is, because it's like they've agreed to this, and like it's a shot of like studio executives going over scripts in this like terrorist safe house.
Terrorist safe house, which I appreciate. The goofiness of the terrorist safe house. You see her like get patted down outside, and then she goes in, and then the guy's like eating Kentucky Fried Chicken like he's just eating fast food and consuming like everybody else because
Yeah.
you know you can't escape from capitalism. And what, you gonna raise all your own chickens? No, the colonel's doing that for you, dude. He's part of the commune.
Yeah, it's moments like that that are funny, and then the satire writes itself. It's like right there, you know. But like, there's other parts where it's just harder, deeper cutting. So it's kind of like
Well, yeah,
interesting
you have
tone.
it. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but with Arthur, that's the character's name, right? Yeah, Arthur Jensen by Ned Beatty. He talks about like in Russia, they're doing the same bean counting we are. They're checking their like statements and finances, and he's saying when he gives the insane "there's one religion and it's money" speech, um, which the thing that gets quoted in this movie is that I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore,
Yeah.
which comes about an hour in. It's actually fairly early into the movie. I was expecting it more at the climax. To me, that speech with Arthur Jensen is almost more the climactic speech.
Oh, that's the Jensen shit is what I knew about it before I even watched the movie.
Oh,
Actually.
yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know that part.
It's been parodied.
It has been. He had like 3 days to learn those lines and do all that. He was he was hired like casted like 3 days before.
It's also funny, like with the inciting incident of Howard saying that on TV, on live TV, and then when it cuts back from commercial and they're all fighting and he's punching people and stuff, it's funny because like the main phone call they're getting from viewers that they're complaining about the language on TV, not the guy's health or well-being.
Well, that's the weird thing about standards and practices, right? Alex Hirsch has talked about this at length about Gravity Falls. If you're into that, he can tell you about Disney S&P. But there's this weird thing, specifically in American programming, where it's just like violence is okay, cursing is not. But giving people concussions.
Yeah, this guy could shoot himself on TV, but if he said Jesus fucking Christ, people would be up in arms. Like,
yeah, dude.
Why would you show this?
Right, because one of those is entertaining. There was a news reporter, and it was in '74, so it was probably at least partially inspired by this. Christine Chubbuck, who did kill herself on live TV.
Yeah.
So look into that. There's also who's that? That R. Bud Dwyer.
Yeah, I was like, when was Buddy Dwyer? What are Bud Dwyer?
Yeah, that was '87. So that
okay,
was
yeah, much later.
But '74 was Christine Chubbuck. She Sarasota, Florida, one of the news stations, just unalived herself. Do we have to say unalive?
Don't fucking say unalive on this fucking show.
We have to say unalive for the algorithm.
No, I don't give a fuck. I'm sick of. You got to say the words as they are, or
no,
else
I hate euphemism.
We're gonna devolve. We're not gonna adhere to Singapore's TikTok rules.
Is it Singapore?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. Singapore's a weird place.
But God, I cannot stand that. Don't ever say that again.
Okay, I won't say unalived again.
Okay. Grape, it's the same shit.
Yeah, well, that's from a Whitest Kid You Know sketch. That's all that makes me think about.
Kids using that on TikTok don't know what the Whitest Kids You Know are.
Yes, that is true.
But what I was noticing now that I have seen Dog Day Afternoon, that obviously the satirical elements of bank robbery comes back into this. He's obviously got a fixation on it because Faye Dunaway is absolutely like, she's in love with the footage that they got of a real bank robbery.
It's like if I wanted to start a reality show about ISIS.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It is like the real world ISIS.
It's like they are robbing a bank, but that's like, if I didn't care about my life or being scared to be killed, that I could see myself like being that level of a documentarian. Like, can you follow us around while we rob this bank? Like real life, like Trailer Park Boys, except way more dangerous.
I mean, how much are they paying? I don't know. How much are they paying? Are they giving me some of the bank money, or is it clean money? Can I file it on my taxes, or am I going to have to get like a fake job like drug dealers do?
It's almost like a meta version of what he was trying to do with his last movie, which obviously it's a fake staged movie of a bank robbery, but it's still,
Yeah, it is. It's crazy that I mean this was released pretty much back to back with Dog Day Afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that was seven. No, yeah, dude, this guy's run Serpico 73,
Yeah.
Orient Express 74. This was 76. Dog Day Afternoon 75. Yeah, God.
Crazy.
Then Equus, then The Wiz.
Oh, dude. I watched The Wiz like a month ago. Man, that was not that good.
It wasn't. I
No,
didn't
a
realize that
lot
was
of
Sidney Lumet.
creative set pieces and costumes. There's a couple of good songs, but that movie is a slog to get through. It should have
Oh,
been cut
really?
down by like 40 minutes. Like, it's that bad to me.
I do think it's crazy that we go from Network and Dog Day Afternoon to The Wiz, which I haven't seen.
Yeah,
Also, I also think it's crazy that that was directed by a white guy. I'm not even joking.
I know.
I didn't
Yeah,
know
it blew
Sidney
my
Lumet
mind.
directed that.
That's the whole reason I watched it. Was like I was like, wait, this is Sidney Lumet. Okay,
Uh,
fuck it.
you were like, "Oh, this isn't directed by a black guy. I'll watch it." That's what you said, right?
The
Come on,
best part
Adrian. That's not
about
right.
The Wiz is that that's when Quincy Jones worked on the score. So that's when he met Michael Jackson. So if they wouldn't have worked on that film together, Michael Jackson would have made the same old Jackson 5 spinoff sounding crap. But
Oh, so we got Lumet to thank for Thriller, is what you're saying.
basically, dude, Quincy Jones was like, okay, Michael, we're gonna make some shit together. And then you have the greatest 3 album run of all time. And it's like, holy shit, like Off the Wall is one of my favorite albums of all time. And like that's the only appealing part of The Wiz is like, so you know, you get to hear like a proto collaboration between Jones and Michael Jackson in a few of the songs on there, you know, because Jackson's got, you know, he's in quite a bit of it. So that's the only appeal of The Wiz. You know, people might hate on me for that, but I don't I don't think that movie's very
All
good.
right. Well, you know, Adrian's not progressive, so
Yeah, well, you know,
not woke enough for black movies. Sorry.
but basically the whole not joke, but just the whole thing of this movie is like we're gonna keep this guy on as entertainment, even though he's the one condemning and deconstructing the entire element in which he's a part of.
Right. People want to hear that, but they don't want to actually change their lives. They just want to hear something and shout something so they can feel like they're doing something, like their Facebook activism or something, without actually changing any of their habits. So they still want to watch TV and be complicit in the manufactured consent in the Chomskyan terms.
And Faye Dunaway plays one of the most callous, soulless kind of
Soulless.
new
Evil, but evil in a
executive.
way that she's just a husk. Not evil in that she's actively evil, in that
Yeah,
she's passively evil, lawful evil, even.
until the end. But yeah, because she's the first person after watching that footage, she's like, first of all, she wants to turn that crazy terrorist communist organization to like a kind of a not just like a special. She wants like a recreated like series, and she wants like a documentary and like all this stuff. And it's like the next best thing she latches her arms onto is Howard's psychosis.
Yeah, it's psychosis. That's exactly what it was. He thinks the god of television is talking to him. He's treating like it's like he's an antenna for signals from the TV gods himself. I bet Faye Dunaway's character, I bet Diana would make insane stuff for the streaming networks if she worked for like
Oh,
TLC
it'd
or
be
something.
sick.
It'd be insane. But would you not watch that show of far left radical terrorists, Robin
Che
Banks,
Guevara, the movie, basically.
Che Guevara, the series?
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be certainly interesting.
Be like Pedro Pascal as Che. I don't know.
That'd be
Okay,
like,
now that I said that, I really want that actually. Where's Castro? I just want to see. No, I just want to see. Yeah, I want to see Pedro as a radical leftist. Faye Dunaway. So another movie this movie made me think of was Nightcrawler, the Jake Gyllenhaal movie.
oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously both news movies. If you haven't seen Nightcrawler, probably one of my favorites of the 2010s. Just in
Can't
the
believe
way
it's been
that
10 years.
yeah, it's crazy. In the way it typifies the media and the further decline of television news. Because like you and I, we're in our early 30s. I don't know anybody our age who watches television news. It's exclusively for boomers and older now, maybe
Yeah.
Gen X. Which it's insane because like those are the people who actually vote, and then people our age don't vote as much. So it's like you have this obsolete technology controlling the thoughts and minds of large swaths of the country, and then you have Chinese TikTok propaganda for the rest.
And the only time I do see television news is when it's something big like the presidential debates and when when Biden stepped down. It's always like certain the news channels will like allow their broadcast to be streamed on YouTube during these important times so everyone can tune in. I've noticed that. I remember when on election day and or when January 6th. It's like I just had that on to see Biden get sworn in or whatever. And like I saw it from the beginning, like slowly escalate until like the riots broke out. It was crazy to
It was
like,
pretty crazy. I remember it was nighttime where I was because I was in Spain and I was about to go to bed, and I'm like, "Oh, my country's on fire. That's fun. I can't sleep now." And then I had to go to work the next day, and my teacher, yeah, is that was a lot of fun.
I
Anyway,
remember, yeah.
Faye
But
Dunaway reminds me of a lot of the female news anchor lead in Nightcrawler, who has an almost like sexual thrill out of receiving these basically this death footage from car crashes and stuff that they're getting throughout the movie. And I mean, Diana Faye Dunaway's character seems like it had to be a prototype or an antecedent to that. Just sort
yeah,
of ratings obsessed thing. I mean, the gag, the jokes. Speaking of humor, of like she can only talk about TV and what's his name, Schumacher.
Max.
Matt Schumacher is just trying to get it wet, and she just
And she
keeps
can't even
talking
shut the
about
fuck
rape.
up.
Like couldn't stop, dude.
It's just it's some people it's just yeah. And that's the same problem with Toshi in Challengers when she's won't shut the fuck up about tennis. I was thinking about that. But
That's how you get successful. And I think these TV people, like the guy, I think he's still president of CNN. He like got into leadership or became president of CNN when he was like 27. And this is a character like that where they just eat, sleep, and breathe TV. I was thinking a lot of what her childhood must have been like, the characters. And she pretty much openly admits she has daddy issues, which is why she's dating an older man. And
yeah.
it's like, okay, to me, this is like dad was never home or was emotionally absent. She was stuck in front of the TV all the time. She saw TV as a way to get like validation and attention. And I think a lot of people, like outside of their job, just don't know what to do. Either they don't have a personal life or they hate their personal life. So they spend a bunch of hours at work, or that's just like how they're wired. And especially, you know, in that old school TV culture, like that's how you do that. You have to live that.
Yeah. And I like my favorite character in the movie is Max because I just like I don't know. I like how at first he's like, turn this shit off. We got to get him off the air. And then he learns some bullshit that's happening to his company. And then the
Yeah,
next time
he learns that their independence is being fettered with.
yeah. And so the next time Howard goes back on the air, he says, I don't have any more bullshit. I ran out of it. And Max is like, you know what? Let him cook, dude.
Yeah, what
Fuck
are the
it.
FCC fines in this movie? They must have been making like 20 million an hour in FCC fines. You
Yeah,
can't say
fuck it.
bullshit on TV in the 70s.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Well, they do reference the FCC several times, but they're
Yeah,
like,
that and the SEC potentially blocking the Saudis buying the news.
because he's like, you know, if we're gonna get fucked by corporate, Howard can say whatever he wants. And I was thinking like, let's say back then, or let's say we lived in a world where 60 million Americans you knew were watching the news and you had one block to say whatever you want, what would you say?
That's part of the fantasy of it, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but I've thought like, what if I was on TV, or what if it was like I could like broadcast myself to every screen, you know, like they do like the totalitarian
Man of
government.
Steel.
That's not, or like in Man of Steel when Zod invades.
Yeah.
Like, what would I say? I'd probably just do a bit. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
It would be nothing important. It would be nothing important or helpful or wise. It would just be me like making up a treasure hunt for a
Yeah,
golden
that'd be
ticket.
funny.
Yeah, just make it, and then everyone goes crazy, and it's not real. Um, but that is part of the fantasy. Um,
I'd
we
probably
basically
say
have
like,
that. We basically have 100,000 Howard Beals on the internet right now, just being
I
like,
know. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But I do. This is like just like we talked about in Dog Day Afternoon. This is a movie that exists because of the time of which it came. Perfect time for this kind of commentary to come about. And Faye Dunaway's character even mentions it because it's 1976. Americans are fed up. They were lied to with Watergate. They've been through the ringer with Vietnam, and they want something or someone to cling to. They feel like that could probably identify with. What do you know? So, of course, it makes sense that people would identify with Howard. Unfortunately, we saw this in 2015 when a certain man came along and said, I speak for the people. I don't deal with politics. I'm not a politician. I'm gonna drain the swamp. And so a lot of
and his
people
name was Shane Gillis.
a lot of people clung to him. The problem is they didn't think it through and they're like, yeah, we'll trust this billionaire elitist from New York.
Because talking about policy is boring and nuanced and painful and complicated.
Yeah.
And saying I alone can fix it, drain the swamp, build a wall, um, is a lot simpler, you know. And it's like I said, that political ad I got earlier that I mentioned, it was a 5-second ad. What the fuck are you going to say in 5 seconds of any political importance? You know, but that's what we have these days. And it's just interesting that I mean we have more networks, so there's more competition. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like having gatekeepers in media was a good thing because they could at least keep out some of the bullshit, you know. And now it's just so much noise all the time. It's like I don't even know what to focus on.
Yeah. And now you have, like you said, 1,000 Howard Beals, and it's so easy to be a conservative and or Christian evangelical grifter. And there's so many different outlets. You got Alex Jones, and then you have a fucking 1,000 different podcasts with unregulated saying whatever they want.
Yeah, dude, JRE doing whatever neuro cum pills he's selling. I don't
Alpha
know.
Brain, yeah,
Alpha brain, alpha butt,
Alpha
whatever.
Nutsack,
Alpha
or
nuts.
you got Tucker Carlson, who apparently was too hot for Fox, and now he's got his big following on Twitter. They
Yeah,
like the outcast. They like the guy who's not afraid to quote unquote say it, even though
right.
his show was scripted on Fox all those years. Like,
Yeah, it is weird.
but people want these days. They deny it, but people want to get outraged. They like to get mad, and that's why rage bait is the way
That's why
to
rage bait and
millionaire.
false news, lies. I won't say fake news because that term was invented to
Yeah,
discredit media as a whole, and I don't like it when say the New York Times says fake news. But like that's why false news stories. I mean, they spread more quickly than real news because they're outraged, and people want that. And this makes me think a lot of a book I'm just going to plug, Amusing Ourselves to Death. It originally came out in 1985, so you know we're Reagan years and stuff. But like he's basically criticizing mostly television news, but all media, like because it has to be entertaining, that's going to undercut some of the factual message of what you have, because then you're going to have to create your programming around the premise of not being informative, but of being entertaining first, you know? And
yeah.
so you, because I mean, he says the medium is the message. So in the way that like your message is formed around your medium of entertainment, it gets compromised in that way, which has only continued, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just a shame that's like, I get you, you want to release the anger. You want to feel like someone identifies with how bullshit they see everything, but they cannot fathom or understand that so many people are just monetizing their anger. And so that's where we're at. So I don't know. And that ties into like the themes that made me even think about this. Not that it was already not, or it was already there, but like the way that Faye or Diane is like jump. No, we have to push this concept Like she wants Howard to go. She says she wants him to go into more apocalyptic doomsday scenario. Like that is just so vile and how
Yeah,
quickly she jumps to that.
It's a drug. You got to keep upping the stimulus. It's like Videodrome, man. You got to keep upping the stimulus, going crazy.
And like,
I would like to see what Diana and what's his name from Videodrome, what they would do together if they worked on TV together. What they would do.
And Max is like supposed to resign, but then after Howard blows up, because of originally it's like his novelty didn't get past a couple days, but then he like had his spiel that actually worked, and that's when they're like, you know what, fuck it, we're like the lowest rated news. We got to do something.
Yeah,
but it's interesting that he, out of respect for the company, says, yeah, I'll come back, of course, and then immediately gets fucked over because there's like a coup within, and Robert Duvall's character takes the mantle and all that.
yeah, when he can. What were you
What's
gonna say?
interesting about that is that I assumed that, of course, Diane being the way she was just getting close to Max and having a date and sleep around just to have that connection and have that leverage
For her career
if she needed it. So when Max actually does get booted and then is gone for a while and then they meet back up again, that's the surprising part, is that she actually was interested in him romantically. At least she thought she was.
But she's interested in him because she saw him on TV.
Yeah.
Like she mentions, like she was a fan of his when she
Yeah.
was a student at the University of Missouri, which is one of the best journalism schools in the country. And that she like had a schoolgirl crush on him. So she's very much in love with the idea of him, and in love because she's in love with television, because that's the only love she knows. He represents television.
Yeah.
And then later he recognizes that and recognizes like she is a soulless husk,
Yeah.
that has nothing else. It's really impressive. Faye Dunaway, in a way, like I think Schumacher is integrity at the end of the day. But I think Diana is almost the most honest character, in a way that she's kind of honestly like, I'm a shell and I'm about TV. That's what I am. She acknowledges that openly in a way that maybe other characters don't. That's my hot take.
Mostly until Schumacher gives that speech at the end, basically, that deconstructs her.
Yeah.
Like completely deconstructs her to her face, and like she's shook. She can't even like have a rebuttal, really.
Yeah, because she knows the truth.
I know, but it's just like one of the most brutal like moments in
Dude,
cinema
this
history.
entire, I wonder how many pages the screenplay for this is, because the dialogue is, there's so much quickly done dialogues and like paragraph long, page long rants from multiple characters.
Yeah.
And that's what's impressive. Normally you would think like, oh, it would be Howard Beale who has most of the monologues. Like, no, they're all over this place.
Yeah.
They're all over. And they're all great. I mean, this is one of my favorite screenplays in terms of dialogue I've ever listened to.
The movie does take this slight left turn that I forgot about, where Howard actually like wakes up at 2 a.m. and believes he's being spoken to by some sort of like higher power or something, which adds a whole nother level to it, because he's like genuinely believing this. And it would be fun to imagine that in this universe, he actually was hearing some sort of.
I mean,
like,
we have that. We have televangelists, you know.
No, I know, but like, no, I'm saying in this reality and within this canon of this movie, he's actually telling the truth. That would be funny.
I mean, he kind of is.
But
he starts telling the truth about the real god of the world, money,
and
the Israelis, and that I do notice that I say that jokingly, but like he does say like dollars, Deutschmarks, blah blah blah,
shekels.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh hey, whoa, oh hey.
I thought the same thing.
I was like, oh, what are we implying there? Hey.
What are we going into here? But it's like, it's after that part though that Max is like, well, I guess I'll bring Howard to sleep at my house again because I don't think he should be left alone. I'm like, dude, that's the last part. After that, That's the last person I want at my house. If he's,
Oh yeah, imagine your wife is there. You're engaged. Imagine you just bring home a raving madman from
and
TV.
my friend I've known for years, he's having religious psychosis and saying that God's telling him to do this and that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? I make the money. Like, I don't know. That woman's not working. His Schumacher's wife, that actress, I think she won an Oscar for her basically her one scene. And that's like the shortest performance that's won an Oscar.
It's really good.
It's really good. It's good among a group of good performances, which is insane because Schumacher, I mean, we talk about how Diana is so like lost in the TV world, but Schumacher starts joking with his wife about how cliche their marital stress is and starts deconstructing it like in terms of a TV plot. He's like, this is the mid-second act turn, you know, what he says, which then I paused it and looked at the movie. I'm like, yeah, this is about the mid-second act. This is like 100 minutes in or something.
In another filmmaker's hands, it would come off fucking too much to me.
It works but it works as the character.
Yeah.
You know, both like commenting on a meta self on his own marriage, but then also on the movie.
Yeah, but I just could see it in another movie being so hacky.
Yeah, dude. If you had like Shyamalan or Kevin Smith do, I don't know.
No, hang on.
If Kevin Smith made Network,
don't fucking say shit like that.
What?
We were just talking about rage bait, and now you're fucking doing it yourself. First of all, I trust Shyamalan over Kevin Smith to do risks.
I enjoyed Trap.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed that movie. Yeah,
I had a lot of fun there. It's silly. You have to suspend your disbelief.
It was a breath of fresh air. Honestly.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun matinee at the theater.
Yeah, it's just after Max is fired and Diane's put in charge of that part of the corporation or whatever it is. That's when Max is like, okay, you know, I'm not gonna let you guys turn Howard into a joke. And then the immediate next segment is when he gets up from his chair and yells at everyone to get up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore. And you see Max in his house with his family, and he's looking sad watching it, but his teenage daughter, the younger generation, kind of finds it funny, but then she wants to go out to the window to see if anyone's actually doing it. And you can tell from Max's look on his face that he's like, well, why? No one's going to be doing that. That's absurd. And then, of course, everyone starts doing it.
Everyone's doing it. It reminded me of COVID when people would clap out their windows.
Yeah,
have that.
What was that about?
It was for the first responders or whatever.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And me, the DoorDasher, the third responder.
Yeah, me, yeah.
That's a Dave Attell joke.
It's just that look he gives his daughter. I thought it's like it does so much storytelling with just that look of like, I'm the older generation. I don't understand this. What is this? Why would they buy into this crap? It's
well,
just
you know, how many if we're talking kids, how many young college leftists are protesting nowadays without knowing what the heck they're talking about? People just want to get mad, you know?
Yeah. But it's like now that Diane's in charge, the escalation is so fucking funny when it jumps to October. And you see now the show is like almost like a game show with like, or like
he's in front of stained glass, like
it's like the Brady Bunch Variety Hour. Like it's so 70s. It's got all these characters, Sybil the Soothsayer, a live studio audience. It's almost like if Alex Jones fused with like Eric Andre or something.
Yeah,
it's that ridiculous.
Merged with Bob Barker. That'd be something to watch. Here's the thing. I mean, in the 70s, I don't know how much TV was there. I'd rather watch that than a $6 Million Man, maybe. I don't know.
Probably. Incredible Hulk, shit like that.
Yeah, dude. Incredible Hulk. I mean, no shade to
Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah, dude.
Some of the shit my mom had to watch as a kid, I feel bad for her. A lot of it's so lousy.
That she had to watch Little House on the Prairie?
Well, you know, there's some good stuff in Little House on the Prairie. I'm just saying a lot of the programming back then, I've seen a lot of it through my mom because she's, of course, nostalgic for it and doesn't want to try a lot of new television.
Yeah, you're somebody who's seen every episode of Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah, I have. I've seen.
Yeah, you've seen more 70s TV than everyone I know.
I've seen a majority of Andy Griffith. I've seen. I never cared. Even I thought Leave It to Beaver was lame as a kid. I was like, this is too much.
It is. It's just propaganda to get people to say under God during the pledge. That's all it
and
is.
to buy bacon for breakfast.
Yeah. Did they popularize that? Buying bacon for breakfast?
Yeah, in the 50s. Yeah, they pushed that, like the industry pushed bacon as like something that should be part of breakfast so they could
No.
sell pigs, basically.
Yeah, that's smart.
It was huge. That's why it blew up in the 50s.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Pork was our favorite animal in the 50s. What are we talking about? The
and he's at the point now where like Howard's, I guess, overcome by this spirit talking through him. And he spends like a few minutes telling the viewers how much TV's manipulating them and that it's not good and they should even turn it off while he's speaking right now. And then he passes out and everyone cheers. It's like, okay.
I wonder what the audience thinks. I wonder how much the audience thinks it's scripted versus not, or does it matter? You know,
yeah.
And what percentage of the audience is buying the message, and what percent is just enjoying the freak show?
That's the same. What you just said is the exact same thing with the Costco guys.
Yeah, how many people are buying the message, and how
many people are actually find that shit funny, and how much are just appreciating the spectacle, the gross spectacle.
I haven't kept up with it.
That's okay. The real Costco heads out there listening, they'll know what I'm talking about.
I mean, I know there's a fat kid eating a chicken bake, which I looked about that same when I was 10 or whatever. That's all I know.
He needs to lay off the chicken bakes. I think he had a long ass summer eating nothing but horrible food for TikTok, and it's going to catch up to him because when you're 13, that's when shit starts sticking to your body. Trust me, I would know.
Yeah, we're fat. Come on.
I grew up with a concession stand underneath my house.
That should be the title of your memoir.
Yeah, well, you know, people at home, my grandparents owned a pool. I lived at said pool because we were poor. There was an apartment in the middle of the complex. And in the summers, of course, my grandparents let me have access to the concession stand. And so I was drinking probably 6-7 fucking 16-ounce Cokes a day, you know, just not even thinking of it. 10 years old, guzzling soda, eating Reese's, eating mini pizzas, not giving a fuck.
That's terrible.
I know.
Child abuse, man.
Yeah.
They abused your liver and kidneys and your entire...
I did. And that's why this episode is sponsored by my GoFundMe to save my kidneys. I'm going to die in the next 6 months. Not really. But
you want to talk about... Well, go ahead.
No, I was just trying to reel it back into the...
Yeah, me too. You want to talk about Arthur Jensen, Ned Beatty's character?
Well, I was going to say... Yeah, well... It's after this that it's escalated to this point where like this is like brought them up to the number. They're like getting like 60 shares or some shit like that every night. That's fucking crazy. And
I don't even know, what does 60 shares mean? What is a share in television?
Probably 10 million people. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know old terms like that.
A share refers to the percentage of households that exposed to an advertisement measured against the total number of households who were watching television at that specific time. So is that saying like 60% of people are watching their stuff?
Dude, maybe
in that slot? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy reading about that old TV stuff and how much like the lead in was important and all that stuff.
Yeah.
How determining ratings never made sense to me. I got like one Nielsen ever.
The older exec that was cool with Max and got replaced by Robert Duvall after he passed. That's when Diane and Max reconnected the funeral. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, she actually is fucked up because she wants to be with this guy. And I'm like, people in their 30s, I guess, look different back then because I assume she was in like her mid to late 40s. But,
yeah, I mean, she looks 35. I guess she also just has,
it's like
she has that look. She has those cheekbones.
Being like she's only 5 years older than me. It's crazy.
Yeah, William Holden. I mean, the actor. He's like 20 years older than her. She was born in like 45. He was born in like 1918. But also, it looks just Max Schumacher just looks like he chain smoked. like crazy.
There's also a great setup where she says she's got, when they're at dinner the first time, she says she like comes really fast like a man, and then when you finally see her get on top, she actually does come in like 5 seconds. It's like really funny to
It's
me.
so
Like,
funny. I was thinking how annoyed I would be if I was making out with a chick and all she was doing was talking about TV ratings, and then sex lasted 5 seconds.
God, yeah, I'd be pissed off. But you can tell he's like so desperate for something like that. You can see in
His
his
silence
face.
speaks volumes because he's silent
Yeah,
through all of it, and you can tell he's just like, "Shut up! I want to be with you. I want to be in the moment, but you're incapable
yeah.
of it, and I'm afraid of broaching it because I don't want to shake this in the slightest." The choice of being silent is a good one.
Yeah, it's that man is a
Simp.
really talented at just giving a performance through just facial
Yes,
expressions.
for sure. Because a lot of them have to, and there's a lot of that. There's during Arthur Jensen's speech, it's pretty much him, and then some reaction shots of Howard Beale, and they just have to do all the acting with that, and the editing does a lot of that when they decide to do the inserts and the reaction shots,
Yeah,
to underline certain parts of the speech.
it's also so satisfying and so funny because you're like, fuck Robert Duvall for basically forming a coup and doing what he thinks is best. And then right during that CCA event, Howard says, fuck the CCA, not just fuck them, but everyone should stand up, get up, and send a telegram to the fucking White House.
And they do. It's like
And
6
say,
billion.
we don't want to be owned by Arabs. I was like, wow, this is ahead of its time, big time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. People weren't happy with the Arab countries and OPEC because they reference it in here. There were the oil crises of the 70s where production fell
Yeah.
and the gas prices went up. There was rationing and stuff. Because people, man, look into OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. When gas rises and falls, a lot of times it's just all these countries came together and said, like, hey, we're only going to produce this many barrels instead of this many barrels. And they'll even do it in response to election cycles in the West to like low key hurt or support presidents or whoever they think will be more favorable to them. I swear. It sounds like a conspiracy, but it's straight
No,
up.
I mean,
It's just a cartel
think about ahead of its time because how in bed a lot of leaders in this country are with Saudis and money with them. I mean, the Bush family, it's fucking crazy.
We are. We have to have relations with them, but then there's the idea that like a lot of Islamic extremism and a lot of anti-American sentiment like comes out of there.
Of course, I get that, but
So
like,
it's just like this. It's oil, man. It's all oil. The spice must flow. Ugh.
but it's like the look of defeat. Robert Duvall sells it so well. He walks into like the back room and he's basically like, well, it's over. I'm ruined. And of course, Diane is trying to like rationalize it the best that she can, but he's like, Diane, $2 billion. And that's in 1976.
Yeah,
He's like, $2 billion have left the country, Diane. It's like, I need to put that in a calculator. I'm sure it's crazy, but like 2 billion in 1976, it doesn't even matter. Even now, that's an insane loss.
Yeah, which is insane because like I'm thinking of there, and I know this was the lowest rated network or whatever, UBC or whatever it was. And but to think that television, and there was a recession then and they were struggling that much, like what the hell are the conversations in the newsrooms now? Because who's watching it? It's not what it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's one reason I got out of journalism is just like more and more journalists are being expected to do more with less. So I'm just like, screw it. I'm not doing this.
But
and it would, to answer your question, it'd be like 11.3 billion today.
Sheesh.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. A fourth of what Elon paid for Twitter. What a moron. Anyway, yeah, on rewatch, you really think like you realize just how much Jensen is delivering his speech in that way because he thinks that's the best way it'll
To
get
get
through
through.
to Howard
Yeah.
because it's like a religious kind of
At one point, he's
hellfire.
like, "Am I speaking your language now, Howard?" He even says
Yeah.
that almost
It's almost
verbatim.
like as if like Moses came down to tell everyone the truth and that the truth is like money runs the world and that America's a corporation. Because he mentions like, you know, the AT&T and all these different corporations is like it's been a business since people crawled out of the slime. That goes so hard.
No, he's 100% right. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things like, again, you think with him, like, yeah, he's catering the speech to Howard Beale and he's acting all evangelical about it, but like, you get the sense that he believes what he's saying.
Oh, definitely. He's
Like,
all in.
he's all in. He's full Ayn Rand pill.
It's just so like the comedy of that hit harder. It's like Howard has been making them all this money and they'll put up with whatever bullshit he believes and wants to spout. And as soon as it involves that level of money, that's when they bring down the fucking fire, like brimstone.
Yeah, he was trying to block that deal. And the insane thing is, like, he's like, okay, instead of getting rid of you, we're going to keep having you because I want you to say this message. Because, I mean, do you think Arthur was just like so believed in his message that he wanted somebody to be a mouthpiece for him to keep
Yeah,
Beale on
I
the
don't
air?
know.
Why do you think he wanted to keep Beale on the air?
Well, he wants damage control for one.
Yeah.
And then two, I think it might be like just a gross kind of power move. That level of like, I have this power and I want it to be shown and heard.
And also, it's just like executive incompetence from CCA because he's from CCA, which bought him out. And so it's
Yeah.
this idea of the like creative executive that thinks they know best, even though people
Yeah. He
closer to
thinks
the
he knows best. And then
yeah,
guess
people
what?
closer to the action work are like, oh, we should just kill this guy.
He thinks he knows what's up. And then, of course, it proves that people, general audiences, don't want to hear Howard talk about dehumanization and the death of democracy.
Right. But even though that's kind of more true than what he's been saying,
Yeah.
that's the argument, though,
Yeah.
is that people straight up don't want to hear the truth from television, from the
Yeah.
news. I don't think people want it at the end of the day. People want to be entertained and they want to be engaged and feel angry and feel outraged and
They're
feel
going through
just.
they're going through their options. And when Diane's going through like the audition footage of someone to try and replace Howard, it reminded me of how quickly, when Tucker Carlson was booted from Fox, how quickly Jesse Waters took his place, and it was like pretty much no big issue at all. And
Yeah.
he serves the exact same purpose as Tucker now, if even a little more unhinged. But it was just like, do you not see how quickly this guy was replaced, and now you just believe everything Jesse Waters says? Oh, well.
Oh, yeah. Just a side note, I was at Barnes and Noble and saw side by side a book of Bill Maher and Jesse Waters, and it was the two most punchable faces I could imagine being next to each other on a
both
bookshelf.
sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, it's like I hate both these guys.
Fuck 'em.
For different reasons. God, yeah, Jesse Waters is the smarmiest look on his face at all times. That smile, God, rah. It's a beautiful thing. And they're like, yeah, we should kill him. We should just kill him. Ratings are bad.
That's the fucking arguably the funniest part is how quickly they say fuck it. Well, let's just kill this guy.
And here's the thing, I saw it coming in the way, like in that scene before they say it, before Robert Duvall says it, I'm like, they're gonna kill this guy. Like that's how this movie's gonna end, and that's how it has to end.
But also it has this kind of delivery in the film of like making you feel like delusional for a second, like that would be something far beyond what they would actually do. That they would have, that's just, oh, they wouldn't do that. Yeah, they would. And not only would they do it, but it's just casually said in some boardroom and behind the scenes. And it's how casually they start discussing it. It's so fucking funny to me.
So funny. It makes
evil.
it really demented.
Evil. And one of the execs is like, we got to make sure this room isn't like bugged, right? And Duvall just kind of laughs it off, scoffs, like, what? Doesn't even matter. And that's when, because you're kind of wondering, like, well, what was the point of watching? Well, you get the commentary, but you're wondering why we're watching Faye Dunaway's character deal with these this extremist terrorist group, and now, now it all comes full circle, and you're like, okay,
Yeah. She needed a black commie woman to organize the murder of Howard Beale, the same way Joker murdered De Niro,
and it's like the final shot's so good too because it shows all the different broadcasts of it on different channels and how they keep cutting to commercials, advertising through his death, and it has that famous Life commercial. He likes it. Hey, Mikey, it's like that's one of the most famous commercials.
And it's crazy because that draws your attention because it's so well, despite all the stuff going on. It's intentionally overwhelming.
Yeah,
like I'm at the bat computer trying to figure out everything at once, and it's all just throwing itself at me.
Yeah,
and intentionally, like certain audio tracks are like going to play over, be louder than others, so you get that commercial kind of playing over the more serious stuff, undercutting the message. Which is how the movie starts too. Starts in the same way with the multiple broadcast screens
and the voiceover and the voiceover. The narrator that comes in only a couple of handful of times, but when he does, it's pretty important. And for him, he just delivers that final like bow on the present. The way he like says it's like the first man killed because of lousy ratings.
Yeah, that's funny. That's almost like something you could see in a political cartoon as that's the title for the cartoon.
Ties everything together so well.
Yeah. Now we have Logan Paul trying to kill himself in the ring for clicks or something. I don't know. There's my harebrained analogy.
So yeah, that's Network. Sidney Lumet.
Sidney Lumet, not Lumet. That was a very channel surfing discussion we did all over the place. I enjoyed it. Go watch this movie if you haven't. Go watch Dog Day Afternoon. Watch that episode.
Yeah, watch that episode. That was a fun one.
Follow me on Instagram, Scott K Comedy.
Probably my favorite movie of his, I'd say. Personally, I know a lot of people.
Dog Day Afternoon.
No, this one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah. Which one do you like?
I don't know. None of his movies I've seen I dislike. Dog Day's great. 12 Angry Men's great. This is great. They're all similar quality.
Yeah. Now go watch The Wiz. Tell me which one you like the best.
Okay, I will. I'll do that right now.
Thanks for listening, everybody. If you want to support the channel, you can buy my book in the description below. It's a coming of age, not film. It should be a film, but it's a book based off of shit I did when I was young and stupid. We have over 150 of these kinds of episodes right here. We have half a dozen video essays. If those are more your style, you can follow Scott at Scott K Comedy. You can follow me at The Mooring Line. We have a tie-in film on our Mooring Line channel, which is our secondary channel that has all of my art, short films, stuff like that. So,
and I want to thank all the harbor heads that came out to my show in New York. It was none of you, but it was a good show anyway.
You would have shit yourself though if someone came up.
I would have lost it if somebody had showed up. No, it was a good show though. It was a lot.
They show up and shoot you for your opinion on fucking, I don't know.
Hard to be a god. It's the world's biggest hard to be a god fan, and they come up and shoot me.
Oh yeah, hard to be a godhead.
Yeah, dude, this Soviet Manchurian candidate comes up and shoots me for my opinion on that.
We'll see you guys next week with Casher back on to discuss Bloodsport. Thanks for listening.